welcome to episode 4. My goodness, episode 4, I can't believe I'm saying that, of Talking Blondes. My name is Caitlin, and I'm coming to you all from the Buckeye State of Ohio.
Hi, Miss Caitlin.
Hello!
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today on episode 4. Wow. And I am coming to you all from the Pacific Northwest, North Idaho to be exact. And I don't even know if I said my name. My name's Virginia.
You don't even need an introduction, but of course, Virginia. Yes, absolutely. She is wonderful enough, doesn't even need it. But yes, hi Virginia. I'm so
Hello.
happy that we're doing this. Here we are, back again. And if you're listening or watching this, I'm so happy that you're here with us because that's what makes this so meaningful and so much fun. Whether it's your first time or you've been here with us from day one, from intro all the way to now, welcome. Buckle up, Buttercup. Hope you're in for a fun ride because we're ready for it. Usually, how these things go is we like to break down some kind of an interesting topic, something we feel is relatable, something that we feel as women in our early 30s is something that people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and hey, even then some can relate to. And we just kind of take a deep dive. So Virginia is a life coach, wonderful life coach. I can attest to this myself because I am a former client of hers. So she's got a lot of awesome insight that she brings to all these topics. It is awesome. Again, I can attest. And I bring some experience from having worked with her and just from having a really weird and super nerdy passion, all things mental health. So we'll get into our topic here in a second. But before we do, I think it's time for maybe a little kickoff quote. I'm gonna go with that. Kind of a little alliteration. And that quote is, here you go, drum roll, Virginia. Right? One day when we're like really rich and super famous podcasters, we'll have some sound effects guy that's just doing all this stuff for us. But without further ado, our kickoff quote for today is perfectionism is driven not by high standards, but by anxiety. Yeah.
Ooh.
So I'm gonna just kind of let that linger. Gonna let that linger a little bit. And we're gonna dive into some kickoff questions. And you'll probably notice a recurring theme here, which will help us segue into the topic for today's episode. So Virginia, I'll start with asking you some of these questions here. So let's just go with one, and that would be, if perfectionism were, the question was a cartoon in a movie or show, it can just be a character. It does be whatever you want it to be. What would the character be like? It could be a character that already exists or something you make up in your head. What would that be like?
Well, I wish I was that creative, so I'm gonna go with something that already exists. But the first thing that really comes to mind without like overthinking it is Barbie. Yeah.
Ooh, yes, absolutely.
So to me, it's
Yes.
Barbie, who is the epitome of perfection, in that, I guess, in that form, the cartoon figure.
Yes.
So yes, that's what comes to my mind answering that question.
Standards that are nearly impossible to live up to, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
I
Just
mean,
a
we
little.
love the Robbie movie, but still not. I mean, there are some great quotes from that as well that are all about that. But still, yeah, it's for sure.
So I didn't see the movie. However, from what I understand, is they actually touched on that in the movie.
Hmm.
Did you
Hmm.
see it?
I did. I
Okay.
did. America Ferrera actually has a really great quote.
Yeah. It's her whole monologue, right?
Classic,
Oh,
I'm going to butcher a quote type of moment for me right now, but she just talks about how being a woman, and I don't
mhm,
think it's just a woman, but I think it is something that we naturally feel as women, um, is nearly impossible because
mhm,
you don't want to be you want to be smart but you don't want to act cocky. You want to
mhm,
be beautiful but you don't want to be so beautiful that you're intimidating. Like there's all of these things that of course she covers, and it's so perfectly phrased, and it's a very beautiful speech. So
yeah.
great, yeah, I love that. I think when I had this question written down, when I was kind of doing some brainstorming earlier today,
Hmm.
I was thinking the first thing that came to my mind was like Monica Geller from Friends,
Oh, okay.
which I know she's not like she makes
Cartoon.
mistakes and everything, but I always think of her as like being that type A chef where like and being like the clean freak and being like all this stuff where everything has to
Mhm.
be a certain way.
Yeah.
So that was something that came to my mind. If there were a character that I had to just make up, as
Hmm.
far as like, let's say, I'm thinking like the movie Inside Out, where there's
Mm,
like wonderful movie, right? Like
such a
so
wonderful
wholesome,
movie.
so sweet.
Both of them were really great.
Yes, yes, yes. But
Mm.
I'm thinking of like if there were a personality type or emotion type that's perfectionism, that's living in the brain or whatever. I feel like that character would be really hard to be around, and probably would be the one that's like never ready, well, ready on time, I guess I should
Mhm.
say, but also like always trying to change their mind, always people pleasing. um Episode 3, anybody, if you haven't checked it out, highly recommend. I was trying to think of like what that would look like. But if we're talking about a character that already exists, I think you nailed it with Barbie. I really do.
Well,
So,
back to your question, it can be something else beside a cartoon character
oh
because you
sure,
mentioned a
yeah,
fictional
yeah.
character
It can be whatever.
from a show, Friends.
Yes.
Okay, so on that, because I can think of so many rom-coms that
Ooh.
show that archetype for that woman, the
Okay.
type A, the perfectionist, and I feel like the actress Katherine Heigl, um, she got
Ooh.
casted in a lot of those roles. Some of my favorite
Yeah.
rom-coms. Well, she stands out to me the most, but she's not the only one. There are so many actresses that get boxed into that role, and I'm thinking it's because, of course, it's the yes, it's the life coach in me. I always like to go deeper than that, right? It's like, well, how did we get pinned with that role? Like, because so far from the work I've been doing, a lot of that stems from trauma, unresolved trauma that the performance anxiety, the perfectionism, the OCD traits, the cleanliness, the manic cleanliness, and everything, just being perfect, that usually stems from unresolved trauma. So I find it interesting that in media for so long that women got pinned to that role, and I always wondered, like, but why?
Mm-hmm.
So that's just surface level. It's like, so why is that? Is it because I don't think it was ever to bring any awareness as far as from a mental health standpoint. I don't recall really most of those movies or shows that ended up the character realized like, oh my gosh, I have so much trauma healing to do because, and that's why I do X, Y, and Z. It was always to poke fun at it
Yeah.
and to always make it like, oh, this person's such a pain in the ass.
She
Um,
needs to find the right man, and then she'll
yes,
loosen up.
yes, it's like this,
Mm-hmm.
this very surface level programming, and to us young impressionable girls, and so, but there was never like this. Personally, to me, I never felt like anything came up about mental health um, in in
Yeah.
in in these shows, in these movies, portraying these particular archetypes of women. So, am I totally off for thinking that, or have you?
I
seems.
mean, we can ask our listeners
Yeah,
if you
I'm
think we're
very
off,
curious.
chime in. You know, this
Because I'll
conversation.
rewatch these. I'll rewatch these through
Yes,
my lens
yes.
now, and I'm like, God, this is
I
like
no,
obnoxious.
I absolutely hear what you're saying, and I agree with you. I will say too, I think that may even be almost a sign of the times. Because if you
Yes.
think about it, a lot of mental health stuff back in the 90s, early 2000s even, I mean even now, that
Hmm.
we're still growing with this and
Yes,
I
that's
think finding
true.
acceptance with this in the media. But, absolutely, especially in the 90s, it's like we're not talking about that. Like she's just this type A journalist who's, I'm thinking like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, Kate
Yeah,
Hudson, where,
yeah.
she's got to do all these things on her list and make sure it goes just right, and then she'll become the top reporter at, gosh, I can't remember the name of the magazine, but I love that movie so much.
I know.
Anyway,
It's such
I
a
wish
great movie.
for just a minute, I wish this was a podcast we were talking just about old rom-coms because
And we
I
will.
love it.
We will do that. We will do that. I
We
love
will.
that. We
We can
will.
maybe tie that in with something mental health related. For right now, for the sake of time, let's move
Yeah.
on to one more of our kickoff questions. And this one is a little less, I guess, pop culture focused, and this is a little more personal. You can get as in depth or as high level as you want to be. And this one is, what's one thing that you're proud of,
Hmm.
even though it's not perfect?
Hmm. Our podcast.
Girl, I was thinking the same thing. I was
Our
thinking,
podcast.
and when I chatted with you earlier and you brought up, like, you were talking about how this podcast was really a lesson in perfectionism in
Yes, it
itself.
was.
And honestly, for people listening, I know we've kind of touched upon this a little bit, but this truly was something that, of course, we're still, working on, and we're still strategizing as we go, but we really had this in the works, for over a year. And yeah, so totally agree with you, Virginia. Completely agree.
And I feel like too, because, and this is going to be, Caitlin, whenever you feel it's appropriate to bring this up in today's episode, but there is something that we want to touch on about how, like, can perfectionism like serve a purpose? So, for
Hmm.
example, with this podcast, like when we first started out, we were working with what we had, okay, which wasn't great. You could hardly see Caitlin. We were using Zoom. The quality was really poor, but it's what we had to work with. So, you know, um, we were like, okay, well, this is just how it's going to have to be. And then over time, little by little, we were upgrading our equipment, and we were branching out to see, well, what else is out there, to make this even a better experience. And that's how we discovered Spotify for Creators and the Riverside app to be able to make these quality videos. And I know at first it was like, you know, sure, maybe in half the time, we could have rolled out an episode, and our followers, our lovely community would have just seen the progression over time from what we first started with to what we have now. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's great. But something was telling me like, okay, but can we do it? And we did it. And then it came down to just ripping off like a band-aid. Like there was, then yes, there are those moments where like you're just gonna have to do it. If you really want to create momentum and see how this is gonna work out for you. But we just felt like when we put the intro out, I mean, there's already been growth since the intro. With each episode we've been doing, we're getting more comfortable. We're getting, the hang of it and the flow of it. But we're like, you know what? We're so proud of what we're putting out there. And we're just so excited that we have just great people like you guys who are along for the ride and are being so supportive and so encouraging. So thank you very much for that. And so, yes, perfectionism played a slight role in the quality that we want it to deliver, but in no way is it the say all be all, because it really came down to just Caitlin and I just doing it and being confident enough to just go for it. So, but
Absolutely. Absolutely. You basically stole my answer, and that's okay. You said it better. No, no, you said it better than I could have. Really, that was the first thing that came to my mind. When I had jotted that question down, I was like, well, obviously this. I mean, and
yeah.
you're so right. Like and we'll dive into that a little bit more because
Hmm.
I want to talk about what perfection, you know, maybe there's some good that can come from it, but
Hmm.
what bad can come from it as well. And
Hmm.
I do think there's also a gray area of knowing when to rip off the band-aid,
Yes.
stop stressing over every little thing, and know that a little bit of progress is better than putting out nothing at all and having
Yes.
absolutely nothing that you've created. So
Yes.
anyways, we will get there.
Hmm.
And thank you so much for opening up about that. I agree with you totally. And I'm so excited to continue talking about ding, 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 the topic for today, which is, in case you have no idea, we'll tell you right now, perfectionism. Perfectionism. Here we are. So, bleh is right. So, our previous episode, of course, was on people pleasing. And, in that episode, we talked a lot about a lot of the pressures and a lot of the behaviors that come up when you feel the need to please others. And of course, I think this ties in really well with that as being kind of not a part two, but maybe somewhat of a sister episode,
Hmm.
in that when you are having behaviors like that, or just trying to really be at 100 all the time at everything you do in life, you're gonna feel really burned out, and you're that perfectionism is going to come at a cost.
Yes.
So we want to talk about a lot of things today. We want to talk about what does perfectionism look like? And I do think it's different in different people, but we want to talk about what that looks like. We want to talk about perfectionism and success. Uh, can these two coexist? We'll get into that in a little bit. I also think it's smart for us to talk about perfectionism in different environments. So perfectionism at work, perfectionism in our personal lives. So maybe it's with your partner or friends or family members. How does that show up? And of course, we don't just want to focus on the bad, we also want to be optimists here. And we want to talk about ways to combat perfectionism and
Hmm.
how to kind of grow through that. It's not going to be an overnight thing, and it's not a one size fits all and do steps 1 through 5 and you're good to go. It's going to be a challenge that might be more difficult for some, but I
Yeah.
want to get our life coach's insight here and see what she has to say. And of course, there will be some fun little things sprinkled on in, I'm sure, throughout. So we will just get to it. And Virginia, without further ado, I know this is going to be kind of a heavy question for you. And I just want to talk as in depth as you want to, whatever you're comfortable with sharing. I would love to know, and I would love for our listeners to know as well, what has your relationship with perfectionism been throughout your life? I'd love to hear whatever you're willing to share.
Thank you for opening up with that, Caitlin. So yes, I do think perfectionism stems way back to my childhood. I think it had a lot to do with the uh, the culture of being in the South. So, born and raised in Florida, there's a lot of emphasis on the women of the Southern culture to be brought up a certain way and to look a certain way. So and also too, I think between a culture like that and also religious too, can have an impact on, and I can only speak from a girl's perspective on that, not for a guy. So I noticed between a Catholic upbringing and Southern culture that you were Little Miss Perfect all the time. You looked like a living doll, basically. And that's the way I was brought up. And I'm not going to say, like, looking back at it, that it's not like I wasn't able to do other things, outside of that. I mean, I played soccer. I grew up with, like, on my mom's side of the family, all male cousins. So, like, I got rough and tough when I wanted to. But let's just say that the main focus was me being like this little porcelain doll, basically, for a very long time. So you can imagine the pressure of looking a certain way that even came down to, like, my body. So, like, women who are developing and having a womanly body, which is something totally out of our control, that ends up, like, being, I feel like from a religious standpoint, like, oh, we can't show that, don't want to cause any problems. And you're like, what are you talking about? Like, this is normal. This is a normal thing to go through. So I shouldn't feel shame for going through something so natural. And why is the solution for me to be upset with my own body and punish it for doing something so normal and natural? Because we're fearful, because we're afraid of what some of the consequential outcomes may be because of that. That's so twisted. To me, that is such twisted messaging. So you can't help but to internalize and then to rip yourself to shreds on the inside. Like, okay, well, I guess I'll just have to cover up and wear freaking long sleeves and long pants in 100-degree weather with 100% humidity. Make it make sense. Makes total sense. And
That's possible, right? You
yeah,
can totally do that in the Florida
totally do
heat.
that.
No big deal.
It's no big deal. It's sustainable. It's like, and so, and I mentioned in the people pleasing video, like, also having to downplay my looks or, like, my youthful beauty or whatever it may be, because when you're around older women, they're kind of already like, oh, she's the young one, she's the young pretty one, and I'm the older one. And it's like, I'm almost 35. Like, there is a difference between being a young 20-something-year-old and already somebody in their 30s, okay? Like, I'm just going to call it for what it is. But I felt like, though, because that's something that still to this day, it's like, having a pretty face or having, like, this, well, beautiful, womanly, body. It's like, I know that has a lot to do with healing yourself and taking care of yourself in such a way where you're not, like, you're not offended by someone else who's younger and maybe even prettier or having their season, of life. You almost want to, like, celebrate it with them and embrace them, because we know that as teenagers and 20s, like, we don't really, we're not really grateful for what we have. And so we take it for granted. So, of course, I'll look back at pictures of myself in my 20s when I thought I was so grotesque and couldn't stand to see the sight of me. And I'm going, oh, Virginia, for goodness sake, woman. Like, oh, wow. So that is why there's such an emphasis on mental and emotional, wellness, especially for a woman, because looks are not everything. And so when you're brought up to believe that they are, it's like there's a shelf life to that. And I'm seeing far more beautiful women as I get older because they're living a life true to themselves. It's not about the hair, the makeup, the clothes. I think those are all those can all be wonderful enhancements. But the real beauty is coming from within. It's being in a happy, healthy relationship with yourself and with others and living a life, true to you. That glow you can't buy anywhere else. That comes from within. Um, but, that's also something that I do think takes place at a certain time in your life. So when you are the awkward middle schooler or the awkward high schooler or even the awkward person in your 20s, you're not really thinking in terms of that, right? You're just like you're seeing what's on social media, which definitely plays a role in perfectionism way before it played a role for Caitlin and I. Like it already existed before social media. Now it's just amplified, and it's far more damaging. But I already had perfectionism instilled in me because that's what the women in my family were convinced that that's what would give a woman a fair chance at life. Is to be this very proper, perfect, beautiful woman who is flawless and makes no mistakes. And I'm like, okay, so what you're pretty much telling me is to not be human and to be this hot little robot. Like, okay, well, that's not really working for me because I have crippling anxiety because of it. I have debilitating depression because of it. Oh, and to boot, I absolutely hate my face and my body. So then I struggle with body dysmorphia. So what's really the payoff? Because I wasn't really experiencing any kind of payoff. I was in misery for most of my teen and my 20s with perfectionism, like leading with perfectionism, which does stem from anxiety. And, I would even like in my 20s as I don't know if it was definitely a way to ease my stress and anxiety, but like I would pick the breakouts on my face. Like I would excessively pick at them to the point where I caused open wounds, like open gaping wounds that I had to seek medical attention for. That's not normal and that's not healthy. So again, these are all signs of like at that time, I didn't realize that those were early signs of how perfectionism was hurting me. I was causing physical harm. It was a form of self-harm, actually, when I look back at it. And I can't even look at those pictures anymore because I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did this to myself. And like little self-worth and a little bit, very low self-worth and self-love. And so I know that was a very long-winded answer, but if you haven't picked up on it, there was a lot to unpack for me with perfectionism. But yeah, I am so glad to be a good enoughist.
Oh, I love that.
And referencing
Well,
Brene Brown with that.
I was gonna say, what's the Brene Brown quote you had told
Yes,
me earlier today? And then I
I
want to ask you about what you
absolutely
just said.
love this quote. It is, I'm a recovering perfectionist and an aspiring good enoughist.
Ooh, I love that.
I love
I
that
love
so.
that.
Yes way, Brene.
Yes, yes, way, Brene. Oh my gosh, that made me so happy. Okay,
Oh,
well, wonderful Brene Brown aside, Virginia, I'm giving you the biggest virtual hug right now. Like oh my goodness, um, uh, I thank you for sharing all of that. I know that experiences like that are so heavy, they take so much strength and so much I it's such a challenge to overcome. And I'm sure there are days where, you do see those pictures and you think, "Oh my goodness." And I also know, I'm thinking back to episode 1 where we talked about vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking about little Virginia. And I'm thinking about how you had said in episode 1 that you came from an upbringing where vulnerability, or if there was a problem, or saying anything that might be in the slightest bit negative of how you were feeling or what was going on inside, it was just not done. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm thinking about this, and of course, the whole perfectionism, of course, coincides with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
Yeah.
no-brainer. But I just want to go back in time and just tell little Virginia, there's a big world out there, and you are beautiful and wonderful just as you are. And these completely impossible expectations are nothing that anyone can sustain, whether
Yeah.
they're, 7 or 8 year old you and you're just growing up, or, you know, you that's 12, 13, 14 and you're maturing and your body's growing, or, whether you're whatever age. I just wish I could go back in time and tell you those things. But
No.
the fact that you have come on this journey on your own says so much about you. I know that you don't just get to be where you are in life. You have to have intention, and you have to want to grow, and you have
Yeah.
to really want to overcome. So I'm so proud of you. And I just want to thank you so much. I just think that's a really beautiful um, story, and a really beautiful, I'm trying to think of the phrase I want to use. Obstacle seems like too small of a word, but
No.
horrible challenge to have overcome. I wanted to ask you, and I think I know the answer, but I wanted to ask you, kind of going off of that,
Mm-hmm.
when you were feeling this way as a not yet adult,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess into adulthood too, did you have anyone that you felt you could go to talk about these things?
Yes. Amanda, our
Oh.
our mutual friend. In fact, I can't believe I'm about to bring this up, but there was a time. So I avoided taking pictures with friends and family because, again, I hated the way I looked in pictures. I had a very distorted image of myself, and
Mm.
it was something I kept to myself because, Caitlin, you brought up the vulnerability episode, and thank you so much for circling back to that because I mentioned that no one can know Virginia had these flaws. Okay, so I kept this dirty little secret to myself, and did everything I could in my power to avoid pictures, and I was really good at it.
Mm.
Um, well, it got to a point with Amanda. Amanda, if you're listening to this, I love you. Um,
Hey, Amanda, we both love you.
she came down to visit me in Florida, and we were about maybe 17, 18, somewhere around there. Well, I remember it was senior year of high school. We were just starting senior year. So she came down, I think that summer going into senior year. And like normal girls do, that was during that time. So no, wasn't the photos weren't as polished and poised as we see the photos being taken today amongst young girls. These were more candid shots. These were more real. These were more authentic. And Amanda loved taking photos and documenting. And so she was snapping photos of us, and I got really upset because I felt like I um, didn't put myself in a position to look perfect, in
Mm.
photos. So I'll always ask, like, can I see them? Can I see them? And then I'll delete them.
Oh.
Yeah, well, you imagine that can piss people off.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. Like, here I
Sure.
am thinking to myself, like, oopsie. Oh my gosh. So we lost it. Darn.
Oh, I hit the wrong button.
Oh my gosh. First of all, do you know how selfish that is? That is selfish.
Yeah, but I also recognize that it's coming from a place of pain. And it's
It
coming
is, but
from a
that's not my
place.
place to do it.
I totally understand. I totally understand.
But
But
I know
it's
the
not.
empath in you can see the pain, and that's why, but that's okay, so that's my whole thing though about that. It's not an excuse,
Sure,
though.
of
It's not an
course.
excuse. That was not my place or my right to take someone else's property, basically, away. So I know it sounds really like, okay, Virginia, like chill, but this is why it is so important for, if you can relate to this, if you're listening to this, like, you calling me out, that's okay because I want to let you know, like, Amanda did get upset with me. She cried. She cried. And she was like, Virginia, I don't understand. Like, these are just photos of us. Like,
Yeah.
no one might not even really see them. It's just for us. I don't understand. And, again, Caitlin, we were talking about vulnerability. Well, if I'm not being vulnerable with my friend about as to why I had to delete those photos or got upset and just got all defensive and angry, what can that person do?
Sure.
So at some point, I just remember like breaking down and go, because I'm freaking disgusting and I don't want to see myself like that. And she lost it. She's like, oh my God, like I can't believe that's how you see yourself. It was so heartbreaking for her
Aw.
to hear this about her best friend, her cutting herself up, and there's nothing she could do about it.
Yeah.
So, Amanda, if you're listening, first of all, thank you for not allowing me to like get away with it, essentially, like with that behavior, but like rather, coming from a place of love and compassion. And so I could be vulnerable with my friend and let her into this very deep, ugly secret that I had for a very long time. So,
Aw.
yeah.
Wow. Well, I had no idea. I had never heard that story before, but I can say if there's a friend out there that you can just totally open up to about something that you've been hiding, some
Yeah.
insecurity or some anything going on inside, it's definitely Amanda. So I'm so glad that, you had her as your soundboard for that. And I'm also so proud of you for just letting it out because something like that needs to be shared with someone that you feel safe around.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember. So, people listening, if you haven't seen our intro episode where we discuss it in more detail, Virginia and I actually met in person for the first time at Amanda's wedding. We were both
Mhm.
bridesmaids. Well, you were co-maid of honor, I think, right?
Yeah, because I think Jennifer, her
Then,
sister, was able to be matron of honor because she was married.
okay,
Yeah,
okay,
I think that's how
okay.
that worked. And then,
Um,
yeah.
and then you were maid of honor. Okay. So I remember, and I never really thought about this, but I'm thinking about it now.
Mm-hmm.
I recall pictures of the bridal party, and
Mm-hmm.
I recall you looked stunning, like gorgeous, but I recall you weren't really smiling that much, or you were just like
Mm-hmm.
barely, like no teeth, and I remember thinking, she's such a pretty girl. Like,
Oh,
I hope everything's okay. And I didn't
oh.
know you well enough then to be like, hey girl, like to pull
Hey,
you aside. And I would never just put you on the spot like that. But I absolutely, I see now that I'm sure there were things back then that you were working through. And
yeah.
I just am so amazingly proud of you. Like the person that you are today,
Oh,
you, first off, you have beauty that radiates from the inside. And I know people think, oh, that's so corny or oh, that's so this, but all you have to do is look at Virginia for a second and you just know. She
oh.
just exudes this warmth and positivity and genuine empathy and compassion. And that to me is probably the most beautiful thing that a person can have is those qualities. But also, you're just stunning in general. And I just I
Oh,
think of pictures I've seen of you in recent years, and you're glowing from the inside out. But that smile is front and center, and it
oh.
seems like such a genuine smile, and it just makes me so. It doesn't just seem. I know it is. I should correct myself, and I'm just so proud of just the journey you've had, because that's a heavy one. That's a heavy one, and it takes a lot of strength. So.
Oh, Caitlin, thank you for actually bringing up that time, Amanda's wedding, and being a witness, to that. And it's interesting how like you think, for so long you've perfected your craft, and that
Mhm.
you did it in such a way that nobody, could see that, and then you saw it. Um, and there's no hiding, from that. And that's another thing too. It's like when you have, I guess, whatever you want to call them, just for the sake of it, like these issues, and you have to show up for somebody else. Um,
Yeah. Yes. It's
well,
tough. It's
it's
tough.
tough. I will give people credit for showing up, okay, and not doing that lame ass text of "I'm so sorry, I can't make it." This is somebody's wedding
Right.
that you're in, so unless you freaking like are being hospitalized, your bitch ass is showing up, okay? So I showed up mentally ill. And we can touch on that another episode, and dealing with freaking perfectionism and knowing photos were going to take place. What am I going to say to Amanda? Like, I know I'm your maid of honor and I'm really sucking at it. And I was wondering if I just like, not in the photos.
Can we
That
just
should go.
Photoshop a face over me?
Yeah, Photoshop a face. Can I talk to the photographer? I think I should talk to the photographer. No. There's like this part of you that comes over and says, this is not about you.
Mhm.
This is not about you. Which is why earlier I was being a little aggressive about, the whole like deleting photos and all that.
Mhm.
It is
Mhm.
not about you. Okay? So I so appreciate, Caitlin, your love and your empathy support. But this is why, for me, it is so important when I work with people who can relate to this. This is not about you. So I need to show up for my best friend on her day. It was about her, despite however I was feeling or wanting to dodge those photos like a freaking bullet. It was not about me. And I can look back and yes, I can see my stoic self like looking like a stone cold statue in almost all the photos. But I can also be like, but at least I showed up for my best friend
Absolutely.
on her day. I wasn't great at it. It wasn't like, but I at least showed up. And that's why I want to
Absolutely.
share this with other people who might be going through a really tough stage with their mental health, but you still have to show up for your loved ones. It just may look like that, and you're going to have to be okay with it, because I am not okay with you letting people down because of what could look like really selfish and uh, self obsessed behavior. So, sorry,
Yeah.
not sorry.
I love that.
Calling it for what it is.
I love that. I agree. Sometimes all you can do is show up. Sometimes that's the best you can give,
Yep.
but you need to strive for that. I mean, obviously, there are situations like we're saying where someone's in the hospital or this or that. Like there are those moments, but you know, you want to be that kind of friend or partner or family member or whatever it may be, wherever this applies in your life, that you're there. You're there. There are going to be different seasons in your life where you can do more than just show up. You can go all
Yep.
out. And
Yep.
when you can, you do that too. But if you can just show up, show up.
Yes.
I love that, Virginia. I love that.
Thank you.
Um, so I have so many different thoughts running through my head, which always happens when I talk to you because I just You guys should hear our conversations when we were doing like this life coaching stuff, or we would just have random like phone check-ins about the podcast, and then we start talking about like 20 other things, and then our brains would start buzzing. And so what period of your life, as someone who experienced, body dysmorphia
Hmm.
and just the sheer pressure and stress that comes from being bogged down by perfectionism,
Hmm.
what era, stage of your life do you feel you had the most growth, and what actions do you think really helped you during that journey?
Um, First of all, I love these questions, Caitlin. So thank you so much for taking the time to prepare these questions. I love them. And viewers, I hope you're loving them too. I would say, so that was a big part of me not getting involved in romantic relationships, the
Ooh.
perfectionism, because I was afraid that eventually someone would see me without my mask and also like get intimate with my body. And I hated my body. So why on earth would I let anyone touch it?
Mm.
So I was just going to be pretty to look at
You
to
can
the
look
best,
but don't
yeah,
touch.
to the best of my ability.
Mm.
But yeah, that's why I avoided a
Mm.
relationship because I was so afraid that this person, again, one day was going to see me, my real self, and be like, oh, God, I don't want to be with that. And be like, oh, funny, because I feel the same way about myself just on a daily basis. Um, so I did a great job at emotionally avoiding that as well. Um, and I will say, because like, I feel like a little bit of this whole feminism thing about like, it really should just come from within you. And it's like, yeah, but it's really great to be with somebody who brings it out of you. Like, what's wrong with that?
Someone who
And why
compliments
can't it?
you in that way.
Yeah, I'm
Hmm.
like, why can't it be your partner? What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
Um, is it because we're more of a threat?
Of course it is. Of
Of
course it
course
is.
it is. Of course it is because I'm happy and healthy and happy with, myself and you're not. So, 100%. Yes, it had a lot to do with my husband. Um,
Aw.
the man I got romantically involved with. Because through his lens, he was not falling for the perfect cold plastic Virginia.
Hmm.
How I'm showing up today, this is the Virginia he fell in love with.
Hmm.
So through his lens, which comes from a very loving place, I got to fall in love with me.
Oh, I love that.
I got to be okay with what I saw in the mirror and in pictures and having someone go, you look sensational in that dress and I want you so bad in those oversized clothes and with your hair bun and glasses. So for me, it was like I am being loved on by somebody who loves all parts of me, not just the parts that are pretty and convenient, and loves the natural beauty as well. And I gotta say, at almost 35 years old, it is so refreshing to be able to be comfortable in my own skin. And I don't have to put on this act. Do I still enjoy dressing up every now and then and having the full face of makeup and hair done? Absolutely. It's fun. I love it. But I don't rely on it as much as I used to. And I have somebody who, yeah, like brings these other sides out of me besides already something that I have mastered since a child. But there's more to me. So since being with him, I read more. I read way more than I ever have. And one of the first things he told me, he said, I fell in love with your brain. I love the way your mind works. And I never had someone tell me that
That
ever.
is goals. That's
So I'm
goals.
like, my brain? Like, what? My mind? And then
That's
she's like,
beautiful.
you're so smart. The way you think, I'm like, I'm smart? Like, what is this? These are the things that were not valued. Um,
Hmm.
and they are so invaluable. Um, your intelligence, your emotional intelligence, your empathy, your maturity, your femininity, and these are such valuable traits, and they go way beyond our looks, our perfect looks.
I
So,
totally agree. There's something to be said, I think, too, to your point about seeing yourself through the eyes of someone who loves you.
mhm.
Like you were saying, when he tells you you look absolutely gorgeous, or oh, you look so hot in those sweatpants and that hair up in a bun, type of thing, and you're like, I do, and then I mean, and I'm not saying, okay, ladies, go out and find a guy that just gives you compliments all the time, and then you're gonna be
Right,
happy, because that's not it. But
right.
I do think that, to your point, Virginia, absolutely, like letting go of that perfectionist mindset and almost armor of I'm gonna
Mhm.
keep everybody at bay because I know deep down that I'm not, a Stepford wife,
Yes. Yeah.
and I'm not going to let them see that. But I do think
Mhm.
it's so beautiful that you find the right person who makes you feel like you can take those layers down and just be everyday, beautiful, authentic, wonderful you. And you can dress up now and then if you want to, and you
Mhm.
can do whatever, like that. There's no limit to that, but just knowing that it can be authentic, organic, everything. That is what it's all about. Um, Thank you for sharing that. I
Of
love
course.
that.
No.
I want to talk more about your experience, but also kind of maybe some tips we might have for people as well. So I love that
Mhm.
you talked about, finding someone that has kind of awoken that in you a
Yes.
little bit.
Yes.
Um, I know you were talking about perfectionism and how it impacted relationships of yours
Mhm.
and things like that. What did, or maybe it didn't, I don't know, but what did perfectionism look like for you in a work environment?
Yes. So the type A comes to mind, for
Okay.
sure. So I worked for like marketing and sales for a real estate company for about like 7 years. I started like at 19 years old. And it was such a great job in so many ways, but there was a lot of perfectionism in that
Mm,
job because marketing and sales and real estate is all a performance. There's a lot of
100%.
superficiality with it.
100%.
So as much as I was, I guess, good at it, there's a reason why my authentic self was rejecting it. So on the surface, I had this like really great job and like sort of like, I guess this status, I guess you could say. And I looked the part too. And but it also, it didn't really stem from this foundation of like groundedness or like being centered or being whole. I mean, this stemmed from like what felt like broken pieces of me that I would like
Mm.
stitch glue together to make it look like I was like, all put together, but I really wasn't. I was like coming undone on the inside, just like
You're like
unraveling.
you're like the shattered porcelain doll that's like hot glued together.
Yeah,
You're
that's how it
trying to
felt.
you're
That's
trying
how
to
it felt.
look.
Who's the
Mm.
doll figure from Nightmare Before Christmas?
Oh, I
Sally.
know who
She
you
could stitch
mean.
herself back
Yes,
together.
yes,
Yes.
exactly,
So that's
exactly.
that's kind of how it felt. So, and I had a lot of anxiety because the job was stressful because there was a lot of
Mm.
pressure and expectations and all that. But at the same time, like I look back and there's a reason why I'm not really in sales anymore. And I rejected the whole real estate career path. I mean, it was all dangling in front of me when I was like 25, 26. Like I had this life path in front of me, all carved out. Like I would go on to becoming probably a real estate agent, get my license, or maybe even just a licensed assistant. I would earn commission. I would make more money. More than likely, I would have worked for my parents because my parents were both realtors at the same real estate company that I worked with, which would have meant I would have been under my parents' thumb even more, which is something I was trying to get away from, and I can also talk about in another episode. And this whole path, this whole perfect path laid out in front of me. And this is when I had the most crippling anxiety and debilitating depression. I was having anxiety attacks every single day. And I look back at it and I was like, I think that's because my soul was rejecting this. It was doing everything it could to be like, do not go on this path. And I would sort of like get these glimpses of what it looked like beyond the glamour, the glamorized. And I saw alcohol addiction, which runs in my family. I saw performance anxiety, people pleasing, probably getting some kind of like, if not plastic surgery, then some kind of Botox fillers for me. Because in my 30s, oh God forbid I entered my 30s, it was no longer in my 20s. Probably would have still been skinny, but like sick skinny. And like, just look skinny in clothes, but not have a healthy body or a healthy mind, and easily be on like handful of prescriptions for anxiety and depression because I was already heading down that path. Wow. And I just went, hell no.
Yeah.
I'm not. Nope. I don't know what I want to do. I don't know where I'm going to end up. But that's not it. That can't be it.
Right.
So, again, like what we see on social media, this glamorized life, and you can see the perfectionism. I just see a soul, the cost of one's soul.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I see.
And often it's a soul that's crying out for help, but they're so far in it.
Yeah.
They don't know how to get out.
Yeah. But it's possible. It's possible.
It is.
It is possible.
It is.
It's not impossible.
Absolutely. Wow. I didn't realize that could have been, your life. Wow.
It really could. I don't even, because, you might hear the argument, well, how do you know? How do you really know? Because like you didn't, it's like, I don't need to like put that to the test.
You need to trust your intuition.
You do.
If your gut is telling you this is not for me, let's not waste, how many years really figuring out it's not for me.
Yep, exactly. So that's why I give a lot of people credit for just having the what's the word I'm looking for? The foresight.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that might be the word. Just the vision of like,
yeah.
Okay.
And trusting that. And
trusting that. And doing, making the shift.
Yes. Yeah. So I won't get into too much of it, because I want to be respectful, but I was in a long-term relationship with someone who was really into the sales life. And it was, I don't see someone's career as the definition of who they are. Yeah. But we did not align in that way. And it was absolutely probably like the thing that really just crumbled our relationship. And that's for the best, very different personalities trying to come together. It's not something that you want to spend your whole life being miserable around someone who's polar opposite, in that way. But I remember hearing the conference calls, or hearing about the work trips. And it was like, these, and I don't want to say every person in sales is like this, because that's not the case.
Right.
We're not saying that, and we're not saying if you're in sales you're bad. Like, that's
Right.
not this at all. But at least that culture for that sort of lifestyle that I witnessed was very much like, basically you're torturing yourself, but you have to look cool while you do it. And you
Mm-hmm.
have to brag about your numbers, and you have to show off your latest designer t-shirt that you're wearing, and where you're this, and here's my, BMW that I just bought, and I'm going to make sure I drive my clients around in it, and then I'm going to post this on LinkedIn, and I'm going to talk about my numbers, and I'm going to tell you how many books I just read. And it's like, it's just not, it's a level of perfectionism that it may be sustainable for some. I don't think long term it is. I don't know. But
Yeah.
at least for me, it was very draining. And so that is why, I mean, that's not why, but that's my proof of, like, I know I would not have enjoyed sales. I had a chance to, get into real estate actually myself, and I
Mm-hmm.
really considered it, and I just thought, I just don't like, I don't know. And I'm not bashing that either, but I
Yeah.
I think I would have had a very similar um you know uh realization like you did, Virginia. I mean, even dating this person, I felt like, oh my God, I'm not thin enough, I'm not pretty enough, I don't look like an Instagram model, and that's like
Mm.
the only type of people he surrounds himself with. And like, there were all of these things, and it's like, okay, that's on me that I'm adopting that anxiety. But I could also see that this was the lifestyle that this person valued, and it was very much a parting of the ways in that, to your point, that the real beauty has to be something that starts from in here first, and then, of course, it exudes out. So I'm not
Did
sure
you?
how I got on that tangent. You're talking about sales and that whole
Well,
lifestyle
yeah.
and the slippery
I'm.
slope, of just a very high pressure
Yeah.
um, environment in that way can can
Yes.
can do a lot.
Well, you brought up that you start to have these insecurities, um,
Yes.
in this relationship. Did you have those insecurities prior, or
Nope.
yeah,
Nope.
yeah?
And I haven't had them since.
Can we all just take a moment here and, like, our viewers, um, ladies or gentlemen, if you are involved with someone and you have these insecurities about your physical self, your intelligence, it it might be that this is not a healthy relationship for you. Like, I feel like Caitlin, your brightness and your beauty got dimmed down, by someone. So I just want to kind of, um, touch on that before we move on, because, that's really interesting that you did not see yourself in that way before meeting this person. So,
No. And listen, I don't, like I said, I don't want to be disrespectful, and I'm not here
well,
to.
it's not being disrespectful. This is why, this is not being disrespectful, okay? Because I just shared, about me getting involved with my husband,
Mhm.
and my insecurities were shattered.
Mhm.
You developed insecurities.
Yes. Yes. I mean,
So,
of course, I had days, just in life where I'd be like, oh, I hate how I look in this, or,
oh yeah, yeah.
whatever.
But
But it was like, I better dress this way. I better do my makeup like this.
Yes.
I better, almost dumb myself down and value
Mhm.
this, that type of a thing.
Yeah.
And in that sense, maybe that's not the definition of perfect or perfectionism, but it was in a way where I was trying to meet someone else's needs of what they felt was perfect.
Yes.
And it
Yes.
is a bit of people pleasing. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because they have unrealistic expectations in themselves. So of
hmm
course they're going to have that in their partner, who is going to be more of an
absolutely.
accessory to this image that they're trying to uphold. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Well, oh, girl, my goodness. I I love this. I wanna kind of what's the phrase I'm looking for? I wanna maybe drift off a little bit here from our people pleasing in the work environment. We kind of touched upon how it can impact relationships. I love the hand movements. It's like you're voguing or whatever, right? I'm dating myself and that's what, 90, early 90s, late
That's
80s,
totally fine.
something,
Totally fine.
something.
Madonna's the goat.
Anyways, oh, absolutely. I want to talk about perfectionism and success.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to talk about because I think we have this culture in the work environment. I mean, it's America. It's you
Oh,
work late, you get up early, you do this, you do that, you whatever type of thing. You drink all the coffee and you get it done kind of thing. I think
yeah.
I think we have that. I also think to your point earlier, our social media has done
Yes.
nothing but highlight um, unrealistic uh, expectations. We're only ever posting things that are most likely not true, or at the very least filtered and made to look like everything's so much better than it is.
Yes.
And, anyways, I think with all of that in mind, we have this mindset of, if I do this just perfectly, if I keep
Mm-hmm.
at this and if I'm perfect, I will have success.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to talk about, can perfectionism and success coincide? Um, and I'd love to get your thoughts on that, Virginia. And I'll chime in a little bit on
Okay.
how I feel after. But you
Definitely
too.
want you to chime in. But yes, I will share my thoughts on that. So when I was thinking about, how so far in the vulnerability episode and the people pleasing episode, we tend to talk about if it comes from a wounded place, the experience is going to be different
Mm-hmm.
versus coming from a very loving, healing, and like grounded place. So I think it's the same thing with perfectionism. So if perfectionism is coming from an anxious place and a controlling place, then you can be successful, but it's a different kind of success. It's a success that you will not be satisfied with because you're not happy with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So you can definitely, on paper, be successful, but I doubt you're going to be happy. I doubt that you would have made it more about the experience than the actual outcome. I doubt that you'll learn and grow from it. And that to me is the negative side to perfectionism and success. However, if you go into something and you're working really, really hard at it, like our podcast, for example, because we really did. We showed up for it and put like our 110% into it because we believed it. The only difference I feel like with this project and the success so far of it is because we redefined what success means to us when it came to the
Ooh.
podcast.
Ooh, I love that.
So it wasn't about followers or the numbers. I mean, believe me, I look at the analytics from time to time, and I get so like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. But Kayla and I are not really advertising our podcast outside of like our Instagram. And so we're not really doing the extra things that would really bring even more attention, to our podcast and grow our audience. We're kind of like, you know what? It's just going to be a slow growth. I mean, we're in season 1, freshman year, whatever you want to call it. It's all experimental. So we're just having fun with it. And we said this to one another that if this ever became a burden or a chore, that we would take a step back and we would reevaluate, because it shouldn't be like that. This should be something we look forward to doing for ourselves, for our community. And so we redefined what success meant for this podcast. And yes, we have big plans for it. And yes, we have a big vision for it. But I think what keeps us grounded and centered with it is knowing that we're in it to have fun. We are in it to provide quality, authentic, episodes and experiences and uplifting conversations. And to me, I'm like, oh, okay, like that is to me success. So if we went into this and wanted the fame, glory, and get caught up in the, having our 15 minutes of, fame, because now we can like listen to ourselves talk and see ourselves and whatnot, then I think that it wouldn't be aligned with why we're doing this. Like this is so aligned with what we're doing. So yes, even though we put in the work, we showed up for it, we even like upgraded our equipment, it was so aligned with I really do think our true authentic selves, which I think is reflecting in this podcast. So I hope that answers your question, but
Yeah.
I think to me that's how they can coincide. But it has a lot to do with what your intentions are, and if it's aligned with your authentic self.
I love that. I love that. That's such a beautiful answer, because the alternative, right, is, you're focusing so hard on getting everything 100% across the board, and that is all that success looks like for you. But if you
Mhm.
redefine, if you reframe, if you will, what success looks like. We like the word reframe on this
Me too.
podcast. If it's your first time listening, get ready. You'll hear it a lot in future episodes. Um, but if you reframe, and if you kind of check in with yourself and say, okay, I'm not going to exhaust myself over this.
Mm-hmm.
If I continue at the pace of everything has to be 100% every step of the way, my belief personally is that it's non-sustainable and you will absolutely burn out.
Yes.
In research, for this episode, of course, I was reading different things, and the one theme that kept coming up was little by little of just focusing on little bits of progress over
Mm-hmm.
perfection. Because even if you can only do maybe 2 or 3 things today, instead of having all 10 of them done by the end of the day, you've
Yeah.
still done those 2 or 3 things. Whereas if you were looking at this exhausting list, or thinking about these very unrealistic goals that you have set for yourself and giving yourself a very unreasonable time frame, and you're telling
Mm-hmm.
yourself it's all or nothing, guess what it's probably going to be? It's going to be nothing, because
Mm-hmm.
you're going to feel so daunted. Maybe in the beginning it's going to be everything, but to have the stamina to continue that every single day of your life is just, it's not, it's really, really, really going to break you down.
Yeah.
So I think that in a more black and white answer, as opposed to yours, Virginia, which I loved yours. I think yours is the way to go. Mine is more so that perfectionism and success, if they are defined in the black and white way and not in the beautiful, much more healthy way that you threw out there, I don't think they can coincide for too long.
Yeah,
I think there's going to be a lot of struggle there.
I agree.
One thing that I have going back to talking about work, one thing I have experienced is I think they call it paralysis by analysis.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, for anyone that's not familiar, it's the process of, maybe you're starting a project at work and you're trying to think about the best approach and you get stuck in the research phase or the
Mm-hmm.
planning phase. Or maybe you're stuck in decision making, which we also covered a bit in our last episode. Really, really focusing on that. And because you're so stuck in that mode of we could do this, could do that. Well, but let's really think this out first, and well, let's hash that out too. We don't want to get started too soon. Then nothing is done.
Yeah.
And I think that was one thing that when we started this podcast and when we were researching and trying to get things moving and we were
Mm-hmm.
really in the very beginning phase, we did have that for a time, but
Yes.
we kept telling ourselves, and this was a genuine thing, what we put out there is needs to be something that we believe in, and so we
Mm-hmm.
wanted to get that right. So
Yeah.
I think we found a balance in my
I
heart
think
is
we
how
did
I
too.
feel. um I love your answer though. I think that is absolutely a healthy approach, for anybody who does want to achieve their goals. And we're not saying, oh, don't go out there and try because you're gonna be defeated and you're gonna burn yourself out. Absolutely not. You just need to find a healthy way to go about it.
Yes.
Um, which leads me to another good point, and that is, for anyone listening, if any of these situations or things that you might identify with, whether at work or in your, personal lives or what have you, I think it's wise to talk about what people can do to combat perfectionism and maybe what are some steps they can take for a healthier approach.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely want the life coach insight. On my end, in my research, I had found different things like, progress over perfectionism, letting go of control, which is really hard. Um, and a couple other things that I found were practicing gratitude, which
Mm-hmm.
I know maybe sounds a little like, how does that fit in with perfectionism? But honestly, I feel like gratitude is just a good answer for everything. Just if you can find what's going right in your life, if you can focus on the good and realize what there is to be thankful for, I do think maybe there's a sense of having a little bit less weight on your shoulders.
Yes.
So that's how I interpreted that. And then one other thing that I had found in my research, and I thought this was really interesting, and I need to challenge myself to do this, is if you feel you are struggling with perfectionism, you
Mm-hmm.
should put yourself out there and you should intentionally do an exercise that you will be imperfect at doing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Um, so something that I struggle with is I don't enjoy doing things that I'm bad at. How about that? So, and trust me, there's a lot of things that I'm less than perfect at, or less than even good at. One
Mm-hmm.
of my first dates with my boyfriend, he wanted to go bowling, and I was like, I am like the 5-year old walking in an almost 35-year-old body where I'm like, can I get bumpers, please? Like I am that person.
Bumpers.
And I was so nervous. I don't think he knows. Like, he knows, but he doesn't. I still don't think he gets it. I was
No.
so nervous because I'm like, should I lie and say, oh, like the bowling alley around me is like really lame, Or I'm like, no, I'm just gonna do it. Like I'm gonna suck at it, but like I need to just have fun with it. And so, it was an experience. I'll tell you
Okay,
that. I'm not gonna tell you what my score was, all right?
Oh
He'd be
my
all too happy to do that if we ever get him on this podcast. But
gosh. Oh.
but honestly, it was one of those things where I know how silly and trivial it sounds, but like it was kind of like, okay, I don't have to be good at this. It's fine. I can look like an idiot, or this is something that I don't have to control or feel like I'm going to excel at it, and I can listen. I'm not going to die. Like I'm going to be fine.
True. True.
So
You might die a little bit on the inside, but
my pride might die a little
I
bit.
tried. No.
But listen, so those were some of my little tips that I found in my research. I would love to hear your insight, Virginia, as a life coach. You know, for people listening who maybe are feeling a very crippling sense of everyday perfectionism.
Mhm.
Um, what kind of advice would you give them? What kind of maybe strategies could they take on in their everyday life?
Yeah. Well, Caitlin, I love that gratitude is one of your tools to combat perfectionism. Like, oh, that is so beautiful. Because it's so true. Because you can hyperfixate on all that went wrong,
Right.
your mistakes, your failures. Like, I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I did this and I didn't get that done. And I don't really think that causes like any good energy for you to want to wake up the next day and go at it again. Because if you keep beating yourself up throughout the process, you hurt yourself and you hurt any chance you've got at really enjoying your life, genuinely enjoying it. So gratitude, I agree with you, Caitlin. I think it's key to that because I may be able to reflect on my day and go, I am so grateful that I was able to go on that beautiful walk outside. And I look forward to being able to do that again. It's like, it was really interesting that came up at work, and I should ask, like, what can I do to do better? And go into it with not this wounded ego of like,
Mm.
I do everything perfect, okay? So I don't know what you're talking about, and you like it's clearly you don't know what you're doing, okay? Because I do everything right. So
What do you
first,
mean there's a small chance or some small room for improvement there? What are you talking about?
oh, I'm sorry. What do you mean? Because it's absolutely perfect. So there is no. First of all, that will not get you anywhere. So if you're hoping to put yourself out there and try new things, if you think you're going into everything and being absolutely perfect at it, you are a boring person. And
She's
you
not
are
wrong. She's not wrong.
boring and so one-dimensional, like, sorry, but like
Hmm.
to me, like, and that's how I used to be. That's how I was. Like, I was perfect at everything. And if someone even like came around who was smarter than me, had a better idea of going about it, and I was like, oh,
Excuse you?
hey, excuse me, because I mentioned in my vulnerability, in our vulnerability episode about like, uh, since I had a very wounded ego, that I would think someone's one-upping me instead of being like, oh, I love your idea. Can you tell me more about that? Or like, hey, let's brainstorm on something else. That is a team player. That is
Mhm.
someone who's providing value.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you're like me and just like, yes, you're contributing, but you're not growing. You're not growing in your skill sets and you're not really growing with the company and with your
Hmm.
team. So that's another part of perfectionism is that you don't want to learn more. You think you've already arrived.
Yeah.
You're not even close. Like, your whole life should just be one continuous learning lesson. That's what keeps you more like, it just makes life so much more interesting and enjoyable when you just keep opening yourself up to possibilities and limitations. And so gratitude's definitely key in that, Caitlin. And I was just thinking too, because I know I kind of maybe went on a tangent with that, but
No, you
I was
you
going to touch on something, but it did kind of, it drifted,
that's
it went
okay.
by.
That's
But
okay.
yeah, because as life coach advice on perfectionism and combating it. Oh,
Right.
okay. So came back to me. Caitlin mentioned bowling as an example, and I like to call that exposure therapy. So I did the same thing. I start taking photos with people that I
Okay.
trusted.
Okay.
So I started to just like put myself out there a little bit more and start to be comfortable in showing up for pictures instead of making a huge spectacle. So it's, again, like I know it's not like, you know, enlightening, like advice or anything, but this is how it kind of starts. You do put yourself in situations that you're not perfect at, and you're not meant to know it all. And but when you show up, being more open to what the experience can be, rather what you're going to get out of it or what you're trying to prove, you do open more doors. Um, in my opinion, I feel like so far that's been my life, because throughout my 20s, um, you know, I wanted doors to open up for me, but I wasn't doing the things. I wasn't showing the universe that please open these doors for me. Not until I started to like be on my own life path. And that's when I felt more doors were opening up, because I didn't make it about my ego. I didn't make it about me being right all the time and me being perfect. I just showed up as like a student and was like, I am ready to learn, because clearly my way is not the only way, nor is it the right way or perfect way. There is so much more to life. So sometimes you just have to reach a point where you're tired of getting in your own way and you're open to finding out what else is possible.
I love that. Yeah, the best way to stay stuck in something is to never try. The best way to suck at anything is to just
Mhm.
never try, is to be afraid to try.
Embrace the suck. Embrace the suck. Oh,
Embrace the suck.
and that is, I think that's David Goggins. He's a badass. But I do have a quote, another one, and this is perfect for what we're talking about right now. Imperfect action beats perfect inaction every time. President Harry S. Truman. I
Love.
love that quote.
We love a good president quote on the Talking Blondes podcast. We
Maybe
love
we
it.
don't agree with the presidential policies, but man, when you use that quote, oh,
Listen, if you're eloquent, if you're wise, bring it. Bring it.
bring it.
Politics, schmolitics, whatever. You got wisdom, you're good here. You're good on
Oh,
this
I
podcast.
love it.
I love
Oh,
that. And that absolutely summarized what I was trying to say. That's perfect. Love. Love, love, love. Yeah, I mean, and again, reframing, beating yourself up over making mistakes, okay, but I have to make mistakes in order to get better. Each time you mess
exactly.
up, you're learning what not to do the next time.
Yes.
Like, I mean, I think about even doing Pilates or yoga, and it's like,
Hmm.
sure, you're trying whatever they're showing you to do on the damn YouTube video that I'm a big YouTube workout girl, beside the point. But anyways, you're trying to do it, your body's shaking and maybe you fall or
Hmm.
something, but you know what? your body's getting stronger. That's the whole thing is you are literally putting yourself out there in that way. That's just one really bad example for you. But
No, it's
you
not a bad
have
example.
you have
Well,
to
because
try
you
to
also, I'm sorry, I'm like
no.
off.
No, go
Um,
for it.
no, you're saying like you have to try, but you have to make it about the experience.
Yes, absolutely.
So you just associated a stronger why
Hmm.
with why you want to do at-home Pilates or at-home yogas because you want a strong body. It's not so you can show off on Instagram or to be like some kind of poser, like look at me and like I'm such a wellness girly. So finding out your why, I think is super important, and we can definitely
Yes.
do a whole other podcast episode on this. But Caitlin, because I started weightlifting 7 years ago. Y'all, if I could show you the videos of me at the beginning stages of weightlifting, oh my gosh. And I thought I was Little Miss Perfect and was doing it all right. And I look at myself going, oh, wow, burn those videos, burn them. And my poor husband, who was like, because I would like snap at him and be like, I am doing it right. And he's like, okay, um, okay. But no. And because I never used my body like that before, my body
Mm.
mechanics. And so, yes, of course I was going to look absolutely ridiculous and have no idea what I was doing. But eventually I associated a stronger why with it. And the why was for my mental and my emotional health as well as my physical. But it's also with dancing. I would take dance classes at my local gym and I wouldn't know the steps. I would not know the steps. So I looked like a freaking praying mantis with like flying limbs and looking absolutely ridiculous. Oh, look, there's a nice sweat stain under my sweater. Here I am showing up
Perfectly imperfect.
perfectly imperfect. And I would take these dance classes because dancing for me is so therapeutic. So it wasn't
Mhm.
about knowing the steps. How could I possibly know the steps? I just joined the classes. I'm up against women who've been taking these classes for such a long time. They know the steps. But when you're laughing and you're around good energy and you're radiating good energy, you are making such a positive experience for yourself. You will open more doors. Um,
Absolutely.
and that's how I look at it. Like perfectionism, it will make for a more negative experience than a positive one. And it
Mm.
will keep you small and boxed in. But when you make it about a fun, positive, uplifting experience, like it just I really do believe it opens up more doors for you. And it's not an all or nothing. It's progress over perfection, like what Caitlin was talking about. It's that 1% every day. 1%, not 100%, not 1,000%, 1%, 1%. And we'll just underestimate the power of that. So I love today's topic. Say
Me
that every episode,
too.
but I love
No.
it ties in so well with the vulnerability and the people pleasing. So I'm very happy with today's episode.
It really does. I mean, and honestly, I think what you just said was the perfect high note to end this episode on. Slow and steady wins the race. It is that 1%. If you can even just do that 1% each day or whatever pace looks like for you and you just keep at it, that is what's going to really and make the experience fun, you know? Like you
Have
said, just
fun.
make it fun. Life is
Fun.
too short. It's too short.
Did you end up having fun bowling?
I did. I laughed the whole time. And he told me I
Oh,
look cute in my jeans when I walked up to bowl.
yes,
So
yes. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
I might get the gutter balls, but you know,
That,
I don't know.
nope.
Dot dot dot.
Dot, dot,
Insert
dot.
insert funny funnel line
Sorry,
here.
all I heard was cute butt in jeans
Thank
and being
you. Thank you.
super
Exactly.
adorable.
Exactly.
That's all I heard.
I was still
That's
little
all you
bit
heard. That's all I heard.
so in my mind, in my heart I
No.
was. So no,
Oh,
it's all about having fun.
it is.
Just not taking things too seriously. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but we also realize it's not always as easy as it sounds, and that's why we have wonderful people here like Virginia who can speak from experience, and they have so many tools and resources out there for you. So if you're listening and this hits home, and maybe you're going through a tough time, or maybe you know someone who is, and they've got some trials that are on their plate from perfectionism, we'd love to hear from you.
Yes.
Whether you want to drop us a line, YouTube, Instagram, whatever. We realize that might be a little too public of a space for something that's private, so you can always email us as well.
Absolutely.
Um, and we're just so happy once again. I just want to say we're so happy that you're on this journey with us. Couldn't do it without you all. We hope you had even half as much fun as we did on this episode, because we had a great time. But we hope you had all the fun too. Let's be
Yes.
honest. We hope you had all the fun. And we are just so excited to be back in a couple weeks with our next episode. So take care, everyone, and thank you so much for listening.
Yes, thank you guys so much. A couple things. I will link Gloria Zhang in our show notes as a reference for today's episode. And our new episode this Wednesday drops on people pleasing. So stay tuned for that. And we just thank you so much for showing up and being with us today. We so appreciate you, and we will see you on the next episode.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.